Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What the Why, the podcast. If you've seen us before, we used to be an online streaming television show, but in our fourth season, we've pivoted into a podcast to bring the brilliance of our guests to a much broader audience. What the Why features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out it was their purpose. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your job, your life, whatever. All of our guests have had something in common with you at some point. Many of them felt very similarly, or they decided to go through some type of a pivot or transition. And today's guest is no exception. Many of us know him as Coach Hess, but Greg Hess, fondly known as Coach Hess, has a distinguished background in athletics and business. He graduated from the University of Calgary in 1978, where he excelled as the captain of the basketball team and earned an all-conference honors. And his passion for playing basketball continued well into his late 30s, during which he competed against renowned players such as John Stockman and Dennis Rodman, who I remember. From 1978 to 1991, Coach Hess dedicated himself to educating young minds as a high school social science teacher, while also holding the role of head basketball coach. His tenure at Westlake Village High in Southern California began in 1987, where 4 players from his program received Division I scholarships in over the course of 3 years. He furthered his coaching career at California Lutheran University, CLU, where alongside Magic Johnson's basketball camps, he completed his MBA doing all of this in just 18 months. His impressive 14-year coaching record still stands at 265 wins to 78 losses. In 1990, he transitioned from basketball coaching to business leadership and embarked on a transformative solo bicycle tour. I got to hear about that too. From Jasper, Alberta to Thousand Oaks, California. This journey marked the beginning of his extensive career in business, where he assumed leadership roles across various sectors, eventually specializing in the oil and gas industry, from basketball to oil and gas. Despite his corporate success, he continued to be affectionately called Coach by his peers. But in 2015, while serving as chief advisor for cloud services at Halliburton, Coach Hess was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. His battle with the disease only strengthened his resolve, and during his recovery, he decided to commit fully to his lifelong role as a mentor by becoming a professional business coach. Since then, he has run a thriving coaching practice, leveraging his vast experience to guide and inspire others in their professional journeys. And he currently resides in Houston, Texas with his wife, Karen, where he just celebrated a really amazing Mother's Day with her yesterday and fam. So if you're looking to accelerate your success and you're encouraged to contact Coach Hess, you better stay tuned for more info about how you can reach him. Because right now, without further ado, please join me in a round of applause in welcoming Coach Hess to What the Why. So yay!
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure to have you on the show. So now that I've read through this amazing bio full of pivots, the first question I ask all of our guests is, what did little Greg, future Coach Hess, want to be when you were growing up?
Oh boy, what a great question. our formative years, I think, is in our childhood and very much influenced by those that direct us, which typically are our parents. And that was certainly my case. I was not brought up in a extremely wealthy home, just kind of middle class. And when I wanted things, once I started to play basketball and stuff, I can remember wanting a pair of Chuck Taylor All Stars. We all know those with the little stars. Well, that was a big deal for me as a kid. And I think I needed to have about $5.95 to buy a pair of those in those days. And that took me 5 lawns that I had to mow before I could get those shoes. And I set myself, I think, of the mindset that my parents, this is when I was 8 years old. My parents said, oh boy, what a great question. Our formative years, I think, is in our childhood and very much influenced by those that direct us, which typically are our parents. And that was certainly my case. Basically instilled the idea that if you want things, you need to earn them. And I think I learned that as kind of, like at an early age. And as I moved forward in my life, I continued to kind of look at things that way. And so when you say, what did I want to be? It turned out that I can remember saying prayers to myself about wanting to be a great basketball player when I was really young. And it all started when I was 8 years old in terms of what I wanted to be, at that point. When I had the ball in the middle of the floor, I'm going down the court, gave a little head fake, threw a pass to one of my partners. They scored the layup and we won the game. That feeling of passing that pass and the whole team rallying around a successful event that I was a part of was the beginning of what I wanted to be and what my why was. And, I didn't understand that until I was much, much later in life. But I go back to that particular time. And so there was this drive of trying to make everybody better around me as I continued to live my life. And that's what gave me the highs and the thrills. So I don't think I had a specific wanted to be a fireman, wanted to be a teacher, wanted to be the things in my mind. What I wanted to be was be a part of things that could grow. And I felt that at a really young age. I didn't understand that at that time. I got to be honest, right? But that, now that I look back on it, that was my driving force and what propelled me, I think, to have the great life that I've really had the opportunity and grateful to have and still having with a few more years left.
Oh yeah, no one's gonna want you to go anywhere anytime soon. I have the pleasure of meeting Coach Hess through a networking group that we're both part of. Shout out to H7, and definitely one of the more popular members of this national networking group, which you're also welcome to learn more about through both of our websites. Uh, so back to you, however. So you go through, you know that you want to help. What led you specifically from the coaching and development part of that part of your life and into business coaching and
Mm,
what you're doing today?
sure. Well, there's a whole long story behind all of that, of course, and you covered it well, I think, in the front end, but of the introduction. I, when I coached for 12 years at the high school level, and I learned some really fundamental principles about building winning teams and skills to teach classrooms, where I had classrooms as much as 50 students at one point teaching AP economics as a college lecture kind of process and then also coaching the basketball team. And so the experience of all of that taught me a lot about kind of the next phases in my life. When I rode that bike from Jasper, Alberta to Los Angeles, now let's not candy coat that in any way, shape, or form. I was a bike riding guy all the time. When I lived in Westlake Village for 40 years coaching a basketball team, I rode a bike into my classroom every day. We had a car, my wife had a car, but I used my bike. And then I rode about 20 miles every day for 3+ years and so on. So I was in a bike riding kind of guy. And I had toured many times before solo. So when I rode that ride, it wasn't like I wasn't kind of prepared for it, I was on top of the game, and I did it. And it was an experience that I wanted to sharpen my saw. We go to Stephen Covey and we talk about how do you sharpen your saw? Well, do something like that. And you got a lot of time to think about things and really put things in perspective. And that's exactly what I did. And it was just a fantastic 23 days on the road, camped out every night, met tons of different people. And I concluded at that time that there was a major transformation happening in our world.
Mm.
Keep in mind, this is the early 90s. We were moving away from the DOS command line and just command line kind of compute into something called more of a graphical user interface, which today we're so ingrained with, we know no different. But at that time, in that transition, I saw that and I said, that's going to change the world. And I want to be a part of that. And so I focused my MBA specifically on business process reengineering and really focused in on what that transition is going to do socially and educationally and business wise primarily. And that's where I kind of sprung out of there and then went to work for lots of different businesses. But that's how I came to that conclusion.
So, it's interesting because even as I was asking the questions, there really are so many parallels to the discipline of sports and high-level athleticism
Yeah,
and business.
absolutely.
And so I remember the DOS days. I learned, risk of dating myself, I learned how to first work on computers in a DOS environment. And there's certain things to this day I remember. So you were on the cutting edge when you got your MBA and you pivoted into that fully. And then eventually comes the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you that career time, what I really did and have done in my life is chase the learning curve. When you think about it, you can go out and figure out, am I going to make more money? Am I going to, why would I change my job? What am I looking for? What's next? What's exciting? Learning more. Learning more has been my driver. And so as I've gone through, when I was originally optic imaging, taking mass amounts of documents, figuring out how to put barcodes on them and run thousands of documents per every 10 minutes and then scanning those. I was in that business for quite a while and figured out a lot of really cool things in terms of the technology associated. But then moving into just working with the mapping, I went into GIS mapping and and mastered Autodesk and AutoCAD and that kind of stuff. And then ended up in the oil and gas industry with pipeline inspection, decision-making process. And before I know it, I was the director of energy for Sun Microsystem and then moved into taking the role of Halliburton. And I was still just chasing the learning curve. They were paying me decent money for sure, but that wasn't my issue. It was, what am I learning next? How am I going to get a little sharper? And that continued right on through, in all ways, whether it was the managing of the people, whether it was learning the technology, whether it was handling the boardroom. I mean, I probably wasn't the sharpest guy in the boardroom because I kind of say it like it is from a basketball coaching perspective when you compare the court to the boardroom in some ways. There's some similar, you kind of call it like it is. I like my man Magic Johnson around that. He's done an unbelievable job, taking it from the court to the boardroom like nobody could dream. And congratulations to him, of course. But he's been a mentor and a vision, guy that I've actually spent time with. And he's good. He's good at what he does, and he was good when he was. Let me just tell a story about Magic. When talk about bringing
Absolutely.
people together.
Absolutely. Let's drop those names.
Well, he was, when I was doing his camp, one of the things we'd set up. Now, because I was doing my MBA, I was running the business side of it, but I was also, since I was the head or the assistant basketball coach of the school, I was also running all the stations and the technical part of it. So I had both sides of that going with him. And when we were set up in the morning, every morning, we had 100 people would come to the camp, 10 groups of 10, essentially. Each group had their own sound off. It was kind of cool, the way you open it up, get you going, whoop, whoop, yeah, yeah, whatever it was they had. And he'd point at them, and why during the day, sometimes we'd do our sound off with our group to kind of get sessions going just to keep the enthusiasm. Well, on the last day on Friday, Magic, he does his morning thing, which he talks a story or two and motivates all the kids and tells the real life of Magic, which he's just excellent at. I mean, he just opens himself up. He says, when I point at your group, make your sound. And so he started pointing at each of the groups throughout the gym. And what it turned out to be was Michigan State Spartan fight song to the T. You could tell right away that it had already been orchestrated for that. And he'd set everybody up all week long with it and then came in with that punch at the end. And everybody was just like, wow, this is amazing.
Okay, that is amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was very
Wow.
cool, very cool. And so, the idea of bringing people together and come and all of that, I think, is real important to getting. I just wrote a chapter for the H7 anthology about common goal, and so I make reference to those type of things and having a common goal and the power of that. Now, obviously, for a basketball program, in my case, I developed something called Psycho D, which was like get crazy about defense, right? I mean, defense wins games, and I knew that. And when I went into Westlake Village, I had a team with a lot of really big players, and they were the top competitors, in Southern California. But they were more interested in looking good than being good. And being good required that you play tough, hard-nosed defense every down in possession as hard as you could do it. And the other things would take care of itself. And I developed that philosophy and called it Psycho D. It turned out to be a culture. Everybody wearing Psycho D t-shirts. We had a common goal of holding teams to 50 points. And it worked. I had 5. That's why so many guys went to Division I, because these guys could play D, and every college coach loves kids that can play defense. So that was
Wow.
the culture that I built, which is really the same vision that I take to businesses. I go to a business, I work with a business, we try to establish a culture, we try to establish a common goal that we're all striving for in the business. And when everybody's going and rowing the same way, good things happen. And you just learn to trust each other and you work with each other. And so the power of a winning team that I learned in coaching, at all levels of basketball certainly has a huge influence on how I coach teams and how I run my program. One of the things I learned in running my program, or in developing myself as an athlete and so on, consistency is important. You don't
Mm-hmm.
get better. You don't get better at anything without some deliberate practice. You got to
Yes.
practice and get good at it and keep working at it and learn every time, continuous learning. And so, as simple as it is, all of my clients today that work with me build a plan, a very structured plan for 90 days during each quarter. That structured plan goes all the way down to their calendar as to what tasks they're going to do to achieve the 3 main goals they set. This is no different than how I coach basketball or how I taught classrooms. We set a goal, we put it out in front of us, we figure out how to make it happen, and then we accomplish that goal. And now we build bigger goals and do it again and build bigger goals. And that's how we grow as people. That's how we grow as businesses. That's how we grow as athletes. It's all pretty simple, but you have to be consistent and you have to have a plan.
And there's so many important things that you touched on in there in terms of collaboration, working together, rowing the boat together, bringing
Mhm.
everyone in as part of developing the change management process. I mean, it's just such an incredible wealth of usable information just from this conversation. What inspires you to get up in the morning?
Oh my gosh. Well, once you've looked on the other side, and I'm just going to say my experience on looking on the other side was when I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I was basically kind of told to get things in order. And in that process, I started to receive a lot of messages from people that I wasn't paying that much attention to because I was getting my things in order, right? I mean, to write an obituary thinking and all of that, right? And you kind of go, ooh, you take a deep look at yourself when you're in that position, let me tell you. And I, I guess the transition was when I looked at those messages and I saw that, hey, this is what I'm designed to do. The big guy upstairs saved me for this reason. And I know it. And I have no question about where I go every day. When I get up in the morning, what am I thinking about? That. It's another day to do more, to serve more, to provide more, because I've been given the opportunity to do that. And I'm so grateful to, and I start my day as I did today and every day. I look at my calendar and I start with affirmations, and I do an affirmation for every meeting I'm going to have today, right down to, to what I'm going to talk about. And I talk to myself out loud about it and get myself mentally prepared for my day each day. Now, certainly I've got my 90-day plan, but this is daily, kind of a ritual that I follow. And again, rituals make the difference, I think, and then the habits that we form create a lot of success for us. Not everybody is wired that way. I get it, but it's the way I'm wired, and it's the way I coach, and it's the success most people find in working with me, and just helping guide them a little bit with the good golly, you get a lot of experience over the years, and I'm going to be pushing 70 this year, so I got a lot to look back on. Go, yeah, it's all coming together.
It's interesting when you say that not everybody's wired that way, because as coaches, you and I know that we can actually help people to do some level of rewiring of their brain to develop those patterns and strategies and things like that. What would you say, Mr. Forever Student, has been one of your biggest lessons learned over the course of whether it's your coaching career or your business coach career in general?
Yeah. Biggest lesson learned. I think the lesson that I've learned that's made me better is to be able to have thick skin and a short memory. Because when things are a personal attack at me, I take it very personally. When things are, affecting me more, not in a professional, but to me, I have a really tough time digesting that, because I really have a strong desire to have everybody pleased with me. It's a nature of who I am. I know that through my disc analysis and so on. And so if I have that happen to me, what I've learned is let it go. Let it go and get forward. And don't get caught up in, I'll call it the BS or whatever. Just let it go and get forward. And sometimes those things happen in life. And I think that's one of the best lessons I've learned over time, because I wouldn't let it go oftentimes, and it'd continue to be mind trash. You got mind trash in your way. You're not letting your mind do what it's there to do. And so that would be my, as simple as it is, it's really been a big one in taking me to the next level, I think, of just fulfillment of my life.
And kind of on a similar note, what, if anything, do you wish you had known before you chose the road less traveled?
Yeah. Well, I guess I wish I'd have known that when NVIDIA stock was $50 a share, that it was going to go to what it went to, but that would have been a nice financial boost.
And I would have liked to have known that from you as well.
Yeah. I did all right on the Amazon and Microsoft side within that world. So yeah, it was just fine. But still, you always like to pay attention to that. But as far as kind of what's pushed me over, I don't know. I don't have a real good answer for you there, Barbara. Ask it again and let me give you a better one.
Okay. What, I can reframe it. What, if anything, do you wish you had known before you chose this road less traveled?
I don't know what I would have needed to know, because I've learned it along the way. I mean, I can say that starting a business is harder than I ever dreamed. I think the biggest reality that hit me square in the face, and many people that are, at the end of their careers are saying, now I'm going to be a business coach, or now I'm going to run a business, or now I'm going to do this. And it's going on full bore. And that's okay. I think it's good. I mean, I'm fortunate that it's worked out well for me in time, but not everybody kind of gets that. And here's where the gap occurs. I think when I was at Halliburton and Son, corporate level, dealing in pretty high level budget numbers and so on, when I was asking somebody for $100 million or let's say $100,000 for a software package, a geophysical software package we're going to put in place for their division, um, that's coming out of their budget. That's not coming out of that person's pocket. Now, as a business coach, when I go talk to a business, yeah, it's kind of coming out of the business, but if you're lower, starting where I'm focused on a lot of philanthropic type things and people just building businesses to change the world is my focus. It's money coming out of their pocket, and I had to realize that it was a different world in that type of in running your own business. It wasn't coming into Halliburton. It wasn't coming into Sun. It was coming into Coach Hess. And it was coming from a direct company. And it felt like I was in their pocketbook more than I'd ever experienced before in my life. And that was a difficult thing for me to learn and understand. I mean, you had to adjust your model. You had to provide your value differently. All kinds of things had to be adjusted, which I thought was going to be a lot easier than it was, but it was not. It took a good year of hard work to understand and get that kind of in line, even with the experience I brought to the game.
And I'm glad you said that because a lot of people think that starting and owning a business is easy. They don't realize, once upon a time in a different life, I would say that, it's one of the few things where you go from maybe a lot of hours, depending on what you did,
Yeah.
to something that you do kind of 24/7, and that you have to love what you do in order to be able to keep going, because some days you may not like it so much.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. What question, this is one of my favorite questions, it's not really an airball question, but what question do you wish I had asked that I haven't?
Well, I think when I've openly stated my why in terms of making a difference in this world every day with every group or whatever my situation and my presence, I want to try to help and grow this world in a better way. That's easy to say, right? We can all say that kind of stuff, and but do we live it? What are we doing to do that? And I think the question worth asking me is, what are you actually doing, Coach, to make that happen? And so I'd like to share some of that with everyone. On one hand, I'm very involved with the Rotary Club. Rotary Club is a service before self organization that I sit on the board, and I've been involved for pretty much as long as I've been in coaching. In that group, we've grown. We're pushing out over, I'm going to say, close to $500,000 a year in charity to our local community. And we do it through three type of events that we run, and I'm very involved in all three of those events. One's called the Brew Fest, one's called the Triathlon, and the other one's the Rice Festival. All three of those are our babies that we take care of and manage and handle. And of course, as the management team, we take the profit of that goes on 100% right back to the community. So I take pride into that. Now, what kind of organizations? Right now, I'm chasing autism. One of my this was Autism Month last month. One of my clients, long-term clients, had a child while she was working with me, and then 2 years later, we discover the child is autistic, and we're working, to figure out how to make his life as best you can, because it's certainly anyway. So right now, my granting, what happens with this money we raise in Rotary is that I have the opportunity to put a grant in for where I think this money goes. So my focus right now is on autism for this one. I've done quite a bit for veterans in the past. School systems, school programs, that are special, that are positivity kind of things. I've put grants together for that. I put a grant together every quarter, and I get money distributed to the right places. And so that's one place where I do it. I'm on kind of the board for the Special Olympics. I spend time every year working with the basketball tournament that's run here in Houston for Special Olympics. I've always been a Special Olympics supporter. While I was at Westlake Village High School, I ran a tournament between West Ventura County and LA County, and they all came into our school. And what a change! Not so much for the kids, or the people that were involved with Special Olympics, the players. It was the community that made the difference. How they rallied around and realized that, hey, these are great people and we can support them, and they're having a lot of fun, and I get to help them have fun. And it was just a great transformation of that community because of bringing Special Olympics. So it's not necessarily the money you bring in or it's the change of communities and the change of view that I want to bring to the world. On and on. I have several other places. Just last weekend, I went and I judged I was the main judge for a school's business fair. And every kid had their own business thing. And so I had a little talk with every one of them about how to improve their business and work with. And they were all from ages 9 years old up to 14 years old. What a great time that was. I just loved it. And the kids got a lot out of it, and I gave each one of them a copy of my book, and because it's kid friendly, and they just, it was a great experience. So I like to do those kind of things.
And as we start to wind down, let's hold up your book again and let's tell people a little bit about it and how they can get a copy of it.
Sure. It's on Amazon. It's under Coach Hess, Peak Experiences. Concept in the book is that we have things that happen in our lives where time slows down and we gain a massive amount of information that we really can't comprehend at that point, but it's in our head and we can manifest it over time. What I've done in the book is I've identified 12 specific examples like that have happened in my life and how they've turned into being springboards into going much further in life. It's a whole concept of we have to identify these points in life that give us that springboard and try to geometrically progress out of them rather than arithmetically cruising along. And so what I've done is captured those events and give people hopefully their experiences they can think about and take that quantum leap into a higher level of whatever it is they're involved. For example, I talk about skiing in one of my chapters, and the peak experience is skiing powder, up to my neck, where I'm in the snow rather than on the snow, and I'm functioning in a 3D level, meaning that you can increase your speed or decrease your speed relative to the 3D level that you're working within the snow. Fantastic feeling. People that have skied deep powder know what I'm talking about. Those that don't know how to ski on snow typically rather than in snow. It's a different feel. But as that peak experience and having the confidence, because you've got to take the fall line on, you got to go fast. You can't be fearful at all. You have to be one with the mountain. And when that happened, I did a quantum leap in terms of all kinds of confidence and other things that happened right out of that. And I shared in the book of how I could, those kind of things. But it takes deliberate practice to get to the point of having those high level peak experiences, I believe. And I don't short circuit that in the book at all. I talk about you got to spend some time in things before you master them, typically.
Wow. I wish I had had you as my ski teacher and ski instructor. Because as much as I love it, it never dawned on me. I did definitely think about on top of the snow instead of in the snow. Wow. Huge aha moment for me. So we're at time and I just love having this conversation with you. People who want to reach out to you, learn more about you and what you do, how can they contact you?
Yeah, well, my website is coachhess.com. So just Coach and Hess, you get two H's in the middle there. .com is my website that I run. And then my email is coach@coachhess.com. So people can reach out to me there at any time. That one place I'm all over the, whether LinkedIn or Facebook, or my YouTube channel is Desk of Coach Hess. There's about 300 videos I've built out there that people are welcome to go and visit and so on. I've got a second book coming out, of course, with called the Cracking the Success Code, with the H7 anthology that's going to be released on tomorrow, 12th. Well, today. It's released today, and then we have.
When this airs, it will have been recorded on the official release day of your new book. How did we bury that lead? Oh my gosh. One more time. Can you tell everyone the name of your new book?
It's called Cracking the Success Code, the best business lesson I have ever learned. There's 8 authors. I write a chapter, as I talked a little bit in this session, about the common goal, right? And that whole thing with magic a little bit. Some of that's in the book. And there'll be 7 other authors that have written their best lesson they've ever learned. That's the nature of the book. It's a great idea in terms of we put it out for Kindle for 99 cents, right? And so what you want to do is flood the market on the first day it's open so that you get Amazon bestseller status. That's what we're up to, bottom line. You want to have that label with it. We're not going to make a lot of money in the book. We're primarily donating the proceeds of the book to a veterans group. And I'm behind that. I think the next book I'm writing, I'm going to do the same. I'm just about done with another one. And I think my strategy is going to be to totally, especially since it's a co-author, and you don't make a lot of money on books. I mean, unless things go crazy, and that doesn't happen, for the level I'm at, certainly. And so at the same time, you make enough that it can make a difference, that you can support a charity of some sort with it. So I'm thinking of making that kind of my dedication to my next book, which I think will help with sales. And if I can help a charity, win-win,
Wow.
Mm.
You are as amazing of a human being as I knew you would be as part of this interview. Just the conversations I've gotten to have with you before. Thank you so much, so very much for taking time to come on to our show and share your journey and your wisdom and some of the things that I took away, and especially about the skiing in the snow. That was such an aha
You're thinking
moment for
about
me.
that.
I am, but
Good.
also I also have a passion for veterans, and so thank you for the work that you're out there doing and the way that you give back. I
Wow.
can't express gratitude enough for your time with us today. And so, as for our audience, please come back for more amazing conversations with guests like Coach Hess. We've got some really amazing guests lined up for you in our 4th season, and you don't want to miss what any one of them has to say. And always remember, when you're looking to make a change, no matter how big or small, tune in to us for more inspirational and illuminating conversations about people such as Coach Hess, who faced whatever challenges or obstacles were in their journeys to find their purpose and live it.